It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy. My name is Brian Engelman, and this is the Unhappy Hour Sports Show here on the New American Media Network. Thanks for joining me. I have a few stories I want to go over with you. Not going to take a ton of time. I did just do a really interesting interview with journalist Ford Fisher on our Agree to Disagree show, and I'm going to be editing and posting that. Ford was caught up in the demonetization net. He was the dolphin in the tuna net yesterday when Steven Crowder was going back and forth with Carlos Maza. I keep thinking Carlos Mencia. Carlos Maza of Vox, bought by Disney. But Ford has been a buddy of mine, a journalist. He just goes into the middle of protests and riots and films it. He's not right or left. He had both Ben Shapiro and Antifa defending him. He had like both sides. So good interview. That took up a little bit of time. So I'm going to keep this show relatively focused, relatively straightforward. Sports. Got a few different subjects today, and I'm going to do them 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep them in order so that we can keep this organized and split them in post-production. Sound good to you? Sounds good to me. All right, story number one. Story number one, I want to update the health of two very important people in Cleveland sports world, in the Cleveland sports world right now. First would be Dan Gilbert, and the second would be Cookie Carrasco. Sorry, now I'm thinking Carlos, and I'm thinking Carlos Mencia and Carlos Maza. Carlos Carrasco, Cookie Carrasco. First off, Dan Gilbert, the Cleveland Cavaliers owner, in some ways just ridiculously best known for writing in Comic Sans font an angry letter to LeBron James after he left for Miami. But I'll remember him and think of him as the only Cleveland owner to have brought me a championship in my time on Earth. So I thank Dan Gilbert for that, and I think the deep, deep, deep pockets that were necessary to go out and spend all the money to get the high-priced free agents, to get all the high-priced veterans, so that we could have a deep team so that we could win a title, as well as 3 max contract guys. Dan Gilbert, as you know, he suffered a stroke recently. But I want to give you the update as I have it. Quicken Loans CEO Jay Farner saying that Dan Gilbert is improving after suffering a stroke. The company released the following statement. This would be on Wednesday. Quote, Dan Gilbert and his family are beyond grateful for the thoughts and well wishes from so many people as they focus on Dan's recovery. Dan's family is happy to share that he maintained... No! Stop the auto-playing ad. Jeez. If I wanted an ad, I would have clicked on it. Forgive me, folks. This is the production issues I have to go through. Fine. Dan's family is happy to share that he maintained... Okay, I'm trying to press pause, but it's still playing it. And it's slowing my whole computer down. My kingdom for a producer that would keep me from these nonsensical ad rolls. Dan's family is happy to share that he maintains a strong sense of humor and focus on constant improvement. In fact, a few days ago, Dan requested his favorite beverage. When the hospital staff informed him they were not able to provide it, in the humorous tone Dan is known for, he insisted that a review of the hospital's beverage best practices be completed. To be clear, Dan's recovery is a process that will take time, but we are all confident that he will meet this challenge head-on, as he always does. That's from Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. Now, I wanted to mention this because initially when this was reported, and we haven't heard from Dan Gilbert since, when it was initially reported, he was having some symptoms of a possible medical condition. It was kind of vague, and it was kind of quiet for a few days. Now this report, and they're trying to make a snappy comment, and oh, Dan's got humor. That's great. Here's my concern. The final part here, let's reread this. To be clear, Dan's recovery is a process that will take time, but we are all confident that he will meet this challenge head-on, as he always does. They're not saying he is fine. They're saying he has a challenge he has to meet head-on, and he always does. And his recovery is a process that will take time. So I believe when this was reported, it was stroke-like symptoms. Then it's evolved to a stroke. And now it's a stroke that this will take time. There are lots of people who have gone through similar instances, and they never become the same person again. So, there's concern. We can break down Dan Gilbert's handling of David Griffin, the former Cavs general manager, not wanting to pay him $5 million, and saying that maybe bringing in a cheaper general manager in Kobe Altman led to Kyrie leaving town, which led to LeBron leaving town, which led to a rebuild. Now, maybe David Griffin could have done something differently and worked that out with Kyrie. Maybe it would have just been a train wreck. And watching Kyrie with his injury history and the year that we traded him, and then watching how he did not perform all that well with the Celtics, it messed up their team chemistry, a lot of selfish basketball, shot horribly in the playoffs. Is that even a guy that we wanted around, that flat earther weirdo? I loved his talent. I liked that he visited my home school, Brunswick Blue Devils, wore a jersey, did that before LeBron came and signed. Maybe we are better off without him. I don't know. We'll see who we draft at the number 5 pick, and we'll see how Colin Sexton develops. So Dan Gilbert's legacy might be... It might be complicated. It might be tied to the Comic Sans letter, the font that he used, and how mean he was to LeBron. I think he let LeBron off the hook in that letter. I don't hate him for that letter. Some people do. He felt betrayed, and he lashed out. So what? Next? Nothing you can't walk back and say, hey, I was fired up. Sorry about that. And move along. Hell, LeBron came back for 4 years. And Dan Gilbert spent. I think he was the highest spender in the league at that time. At least top 2, top 3. I think he was the biggest spender. So Dan Gilbert came to town. He, with all of his Detroit ties, spent money in Cleveland, built a casino in Cleveland, did a whole bunch of stuff in Cleveland. I wish Dan Gilbert nothing but speedy recovery, prayers. Keep you in my thoughts and prayers, hoping for a complete recovery, speedy recovery. But it does put the future of the Cleveland Cavaliers into doubt. The question is this time for LeBron James to come back and purchase the team? A lot of people wondered if there was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of deal to sell it to LeBron when he came back anyway, kind of as a sweetener to make things right for Cleveland. I don't know. Time will tell. And I think LeBron has many, many, many years left of great basketball. I think he's going to play till he's 50 years old. He can definitely do it if he wants to. I don't know if he's going to want to. I think he will. He might play longer than his son Bronny's NBA career. Because he's a passer. He's just a smart player. He doesn't have to be a dunker. Look at Vince Carter. He's, 21 years in the league? LeBron takes care of himself just as well. So anyway, it just puts the future of the Cleveland Cavaliers into doubt if Dan is incapable of getting back to his duties as the owner. By the way, if you haven't seen that weird story, it's been told that people in the Players Union with the NBA want the teams to get rid of the term owner because of slavery 240 years ago. I don't understand it. If every microaggression needs to be under the spotlight, how about the songs that LeBron and Bronny, that LeBron are singing in the back of his car and he's doing workouts and he's mouthing and singing along to, dropping the N-bomb all the time? I can't think of a bigger microaggression than continuing to use that word that should be really retired by everybody. So to get up in arms over the term owner, I own the Unhappy Hour. I own the New American Media. Am I allowed to own that? There's nothing racist about that. Nothing about slavery in the word owner. But the music that's embraced by the NBA culture keeps dropping N-bombs. I think there's a bit of a disconnect there. Kind of focusing on the wrong thing. So if all microaggressions have to be examined, start with the worst ones before you work your way down to owning a company and calling yourself an owner. Because that seems ridiculous in comparison to continuing to use the N-word. That I kind of feel like that should be a retired word because it's just about the most degrading word you can think of. Just my thoughts.
The Unhappy Hour on TheNewAmericanMedia.com.